It's okay. If you go on a cursing rampage, we'll just like cut it.
You'll cut it, that's right.
Yeah, we'll just go to bars and tone.
Collins. I'm an associate professor of material and visual culture at OCAD University in the drawing and painting program. We are right now in 12 Degrees, which is an exhibition space in the lobby of a condominium at 15 Beverly Street in downtown Toronto. And this is an exhibition of my work. Title is Order and Unknowing. I have been working at OCAD since 2004 when I was hired as a sessional instructor, and I was a sessional instructor for 10 years before I became a CLTA and then eventually full tenure faculty member in 2018. I have always ridden my bike to campus since 2004. I've lived in downtown Toronto since 1988. And I've always had a bike, and it had for many years it was my only form of transportation. And so I have double panniers that have carried, for example, 60 pounds of wax, no trouble with many bungee cords. So I really love my bike, and my bike for me really represents an incredible amount of freedom. I can go as slowly as I want, which is what I do. I'm not a fast cyclist. I can move things around with me. And then the time that it takes to cycle to campus, great energizing, kind of psychologically preparing kind of activity. So when I get in, I'm oxygenated and awake. And even at the end of a super intense day, the slow cycle home is a really good decompress and processing of what happened before I launch into my family and share whatever happened that day. The difference between cycling now and 1988 is pretty big. There are bike lanes where there never were bike lanes before. There's more consciousness of cyclists among drivers. It has definitely improved, but I feel like we can do so much more, and I hope that the city picks up the pace on how they're adapting for cycling. It's not just for the pleasure, it's a smart business move, and it's just really good for the city in general. So I hope that continues to be a priority. The most significant change in terms of an art practice is the incredible rise in rents. When I first moved here, I was able to get a really decent studio right near the OCAD campus within blocks for $300 to $400. Which at the time was expensive for me because I didn't have a lot of money. But now those studios, a studio at any price doesn't even exist unless it's at a very high level. So studio rents have increased, but it's not just that. The buildings we rented studios, and the buildings where we mounted exhibitions. We put on so many self-organized exhibitions through the 80s and 90s. Those buildings don't even exist anymore. And it's kind of cool to have an exhibition now in the lobby of a condo, because I actually remember what was on this site before this condo went up. And so it's interesting to watch it shift. And the fact is, change is inevitable. We can't avoid it. But I regret how it's becoming more and more difficult for artists to stay in the downtown area. There's a row of small, these brick houses with pitched roofs, just like the above ground art supplies. That was all up here. Before I started teaching at OCAD, I worked for 12 years for above ground art supplies next door. and all of this, of course, while I'm developing my art practice. But above ground, when it first opened, was across the street in the Village by the Grange, right on the street, and then moved into that house. But that house used to be a student gallery, the whole house, and it was incredible. I went to some really amazing openings there in the late 80s, early 90s, before that transition happened. And in fact, my office at above ground I had a window that looked at the Sharp Center as it was being built. So I watched it go up, like, and it was, you know, kind of amazing over, I guess, a couple of years. As an artist, I've worked, first of all, I have like a 35-year practice now, which kind of shocks me to say it out loud, but it's true. And over the years, when I got out of university, I went to University of Guelph to do my undergrad. And while I was there, I worked in the shop, the art supply shop. And I started learning about the materials that I was selling to other students. That transitioned into a job in Toronto at Wolfit's Art Supplies, which is no more. In the art materials job, a big part of what I did was research material solutions for other artists. And I learned a lot about all these different ways of making with these different materials. And at the same time, I was painting in my own studio, and starting in like 1991, I started working with encaustic, and the paintings that we see here are all made of wax. And encaustic is a term that's used to cover a lot of different paintings techniques that use wax as a binder. I had to teach myself how to do encaustic because there were no courses back then. And I started teaching, I just like rented a studio, put a poster up, and taught people a one-day workshop on how to do encaustic. That transferred eventually into a teaching gig at the Toronto School of Art. From the Toronto School of Art, I was actually headhunted for OCAD by Professor Michelle White. She knew that I had expertise in that area, and they were looking for somebody to be able to teach that, among other things. And so I got an interview and ended up getting hired to teach the materials and processes class, because it teaches how to make gesso, how to make oil paint, how to make egg tempera, like all these kind of like really introductory, basic, make your own paint. When it comes to my bike, and I love her dearly, I have always bought the least expensive bike possible. For many years I always bought used bikes, and I still think that's a great idea. The one I'm riding right now, I think I've had it on the road for about 5 or 6 years, and I bought it like on sale on Boxing Day, and it's very stripped down. It's like a 3-speeder, and the speed stopped working about 1 month into purchasing it. And I just use it as like a coaster. Basically, I have one speed in good enough shape to be safe on the road and to be ready when I want to ride. But it, you know, as you will see, it is not beautiful in the aesthetic sense, but it's beautiful in the functional sense. My seat is old, fake fur men's hat from H&M that I wore for several years, and then as my seat started to crack, I just tied it on. It's actually my winter seat. I have to find an alternative for summertime. So these two big paintings behind me, they're 6 by 8 feet. The one on the left is called Order and Unknowing, which is also the title of the show. And the one on the right is called Gravity and Grace after SW. These two paintings are encaustic paintings, but they have been other paintings on several occasions. Gravity and Grace has been 3 different paintings, Therminus Redux, and came back to the studio, and in fact went into storage. And the Order and Unknowing previously was called Cohobate. Is this, like, these paintings have gone through so much, is this the way they were meant to be? How long did it take you to make that, right? And I can legitimately say that it took me 12 years to make these paintings.
Let me ask you something. What happens if I don't dismount and walk?
What do you mean?
Be offended?
What happens if what?
If I don't dismount and walk through the park.
Oh, we'll be breaking the law.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna break the law. But carefully, mindfully breaking the law. We could have a debate about going
Huh?
the wrong way on a one-way street.
Oh. This is fine.
I have decided that it's a lot I'm willing to break to avoid crazy traffic.
Oh yeah.
And then if I ever get caught, I will just admit guilt. And I'll pay the ticket.
Yeah.
Hasn't happened yet, but this is like 2 less bikes on Queen Street in traffic. So
Yeah.
moral equivocation. What's the there's a term for that. Also, same thing with the rolling stop at a stop sign. All right, here we go.
Yep.
Oh, sunset on Queen. I usually cut through this parking lot, but it's obviously they're digging for oil or something. Another high rise, I guess. The sun is so nice. This little park up here was an encampment for a long time. Daily reminder of the homeless situation in our city. Can do a funny little jumpy uppy here.
You see that? She had like a cool little trike thing.
Say that again?
She had like a cool little trike.
Yes, it was electric, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. With Google Maps, more people are on the back streets than used to be.
Oh yeah.
Because it's directing them.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is good for busy time, for busy roads, but it's a nuisance for now. This. Oh, that's a tight squeeze. Sorry. I hope that wasn't too tight for you. Sorry about that.
That was good.
We're gonna go over there.
Do you ever get worried with the panniers?
What, getting caught on something?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of like wide load. I think
Yeah?
it makes people stay away more. You know how some people put the noodle, the pool noodle?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it works that way. Okay, here we go. No speeds. Tree came down.
Oh, look at this big guy.
I know.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It was that thunder snowstorm.
Oh.
Are you okay? Whenever I pass through here, I feel like some kind of decompression, you know? Animals, trees. This is making me look at my commute in a completely different way. It's a reminder that everybody's just living their lives out here, you know? Nothing I do in the day is that important. And this is where I live. I love that you're doing this. And I love that OCAD is supporting this and yeah, OCADU Live. Fantastic.